What is going on, everybody? My name is Kneeckoh and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC moveset guide. Today we are going to be talking about what is arguably the best of the loyal three as far as competitive play goes, that being OKIDOGI. This thing's actually got some pretty useful tools and some decent bulk, and as far as, like I said, the loyal three goes, as much as I like Pheasantipity, and I've already talked about Pheasantipity, and I may have a Pheasantipity team video coming, I'm not a big Pheasantipity like proponent. Like it's not as good as OKIDOGI, and Munkidori is just so depressingly mid. So I am going to talk about OKIDOGI and how to use this thing today. If this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment. What do you think is the best of the loyal three for competitive play? But let's get into it. So like I said, OKIDOGI is what I think to be the best of the loyal three. It's one that I've actually featured on a team already, on my Blood Moon Ursaluna team. And it's just overall a fairly decent Pokemon. It does have that crippling 4 times weakness to Psychic, which is a little bit disappointing. However, we're in a Tera meta, so you don't have to worry about that. It's the same thing that you have with Kommo-o, which is another Pokemon I'm really keen to team build with. Kommo-o has the same issue with Fairy. However, it doesn't matter because we have Tera, right? So you definitely have some Pokemon that I can benefit from terrestrialization, and OKIDOGI is definitely one of those Pokemon. Now, as far as Tera types go for this Pokemon, it's very interesting because immediately your brain goes to Dark because you have that 4 times Psychic weakness. However, you do have to consider the fact that, you know, you are going to be weak to Fluttermane, and you're slower than Fluttermane. So that's something to note. Another Tera type that I personally like on it, and I've messed around with, is Steel. I think Steel's pretty decent on this because you are immune to the Psychic issue. You are still weak to your ground weakness, which is a bit frustrating. So something you have to be careful about. Another one I'm seeing is Fairy, just because you sit neutral to a lot of your weaknesses then, and you're able to tank it fairly effectively because a lot of OKIDOGI are actually enjoying the Assault Vest. It's got pretty decent defensive stats otherwise, so being able to just throw Assault Vest on this thing and then hit stuff really hard is very nice. With a decent attack stat at 128, actually fairly decent as far as stats go. It's definitely on the slower side. It's like a middling speed tier. You could speed it up to outspeed stuff, but it does play very nicely on some Trick Room teams. So all in all, I don't think it's a very bad Pokemon as far as its stat distribution goes. Now, this one, like I said, is rocking the Assault Vest. I think this is pretty solid just because, again, your special defense is your weakest of your defenses, and being able to just boost that up and be able to take more hits is very nice, especially because you do have access to Drain Punch on this Pokemon. Think of like Iron Hands, kind of. So that is incredibly nice for this Pokemon, and with a base 128 attack stat, you are hitting things very hard, so I do like that a lot. I have Drain Punch on this Poison Jab, Iron Head, and Knockoff. Now, these are not set in stone because honestly, this Pokemon's got a fairly decent move pool as well. You got access to like all the different punches. You got Ice Punch here, you've got Fire Punch, I think you get Thunder Punch as well. You get access to a lot of the different punches. You do get access to Stomping Tantrum. There's just a lot that this Pokemon gets. Shadow Claw as well. Like, there's a lot of coverage that this Pokemon gets. It does even get close combat. So there's just a handful of things that you could do with this thing, but there is a handful of things that you could do with this particular Pokemon. Crunch is another option. You do have a lot of good Dark coverage for that Psychic weakness, which is really solid. So all in all, I think there's a fairly decent move pool, and you could definitely play around with it. The set I think I'm seeing the most, though, out of OKIDOGI is actually Guard Dog, because it does get Toxic Chain like all the other of the loyal three, which is a decent ability on OKIDOGI. However, you know, it doesn't get a lot of spread moves, which causes or any. I don't think it gets any spread moves, which causes some problems as far as like toxicing stuff. But Guard Dog is actually a pretty decent ability for this particular Pokemon as far as hidden abilities go, because you're immune to Intimidate, you get a +1 attack buff if you do get intimidated, and you cannot be forced to switch out, which is pretty solid considering you're seeing a lot of like Arcanines running around. You're even seeing some like Stantler and Weirdeer running around because there's like competitive Pokemon right now like Empoleon and Milotic that are running around, and you're skill swapping the Intimidate from Weirdeer, which is pretty solid. You're just seeing a lot of things of that nature running around. Lando is running around. So having access to Guard Dog actually makes this Pokemon pretty solid. And I'm seeing a lot of people actually run it with like Bulk Up. You're bulking up and you're getting that defense buff. You're getting that attack buff. And then you're also being able to just like Drain Punch and Poison Jab. Poison Jab's going to hit Flutter Mane very effectively. Drain Punch is going to hit other stuff and just recover you a bunch. That's really solid. And I'm seeing this run, again, Tera Fairy is pretty solid on this, but I'm seeing it run with like a healing item, whether it be Citrus Berry or leftovers or things of that nature. Something that can help you recover that health is very solid for Okidogi. So I think that this is a pretty fun set to mess around with as far as an Okidogi spread goes if you wanted to run a bit more offensively. So I think this is pretty cool. I think there are some fun shenanigans you could do, but let's talk about some Pokemon that don't like looking at Okidogi. First and foremost, let's talk about some of the main Pokemon that you're going to see. Flutter Mane is one. Hitting this with a Poison Jab or an Iron Head, because you have access to those, is going to be pretty problematic for Flutter Mane. It's going to take a lot of damage, and it's not going to like it one single bit, especially because most are still running Tera Fairy. It's very difficult to justify switching off of a Fairy Tera typing on Flutter Mane because there's just so much extra damage involved, and you could just Oko things. Even if your Flutter Mane goes down, like being able to eliminate big threats that cause problems because you have that extra damage is just so vital that a lot of people are just still opting for Tera Fairy. Like, why not? Other things running around that are just not going to take a lot of fun damage. Think about Ogerpon before it terrestrializes. Ogerpon before it terrestrializes does not like taking a Poison Jab from Okidogi. As far as Ogerpon goes, it's a very powerful Pokemon, very strong Pokemon. However, the thing with Ogerpon is it's not super defensive. It's very easy to KO this Pokemon. Like, it's a very frail Pokemon unless you're running like Cornerstone Ogerpon, which does get access to Sturdy. This Pokemon just doesn't take many hits. So that is something to note about Ogerpon. Despite its insane amount of damage it can put out, is if you position correctly, it's a very easy Pokemon to get rid of. So I do think that Ogerpon does have some issues playing into Okidogi. Other Pokemon, obviously any of the Intimidators aren't going to like Okidogi simply for the same reason, like they don't like looking at competitive users like Milotic or Empoleon, anything like that. They're not going to like that because of the fact that, you know, you can set up Guard Dog in front of them. So that is something like Lando. Even though Lando, it does play very nicely into Okidogi because it is a ground type, it's not going to appreciate the fact that you can just Guard Dog in front of it. And again, it does get access to Ice Punch. So being able to play into Lando effectively is very, very solid for that reason. Arcanine, again, another Pokemon. You're mainly seeing Hisui and Arcanine. You're really not seeing normal Arcanine run around. Arcanine being able to hit this with, if it terrestrializes into a grass type, you can hit it with Ice Punch or Poison Jab. Or if it terrestrializes into, or if it doesn't terrestrialize, you can hit it with a Drain Punch and hit it super effectively. So plays very effectively to that with the Guard Dog bonus. So that's some things to consider, but there are Pokemon that you do have to watch out for. First and foremost, let's talk about Indeedee. Indeedee with Psychic Terrain up is a problem for Okidogi unless you Tera. You kind of are forced to Tera because Indeedee with Psychic Terrain, if it Psychics you, it's just, you're in a bad way. Farigiraf can do similar things to it, cause a lot of problems in that regard. Armarouge, any Psychic type user is going to be a problem for this Pokemon. You're basically forced to terrestrialize it or not bring it altogether because of Psychic Pokemon. So that is something you need to be aware of if you're in your team preview, whatever the case may be, and you see a Psychic Pokemon, you're running Okidogi. You need to be either in the mindset that this is my Tera target, I'm going to terrestrialize this Pokemon, or I'm not bringing this Pokemon to the battle because it's not going to benefit me all that much. So that is something to heavily consider. I think Indeedee Armarouge is actually really solid again, so that's going to be running around a fair bit, so you need to be cautious of that. Again, talking about ground type users, we have Lando running around, and again, this will proc your, it is going to proc your Guard Dog. However, if you're not running Ice Punch, you do need to be very careful because you probably need to Tera in front of this thing to avoid getting KO'd. So you need to be cautious of Lando. Other Pokemon to be concerned about, looking at Blood Moon and Standard Ursaluna. You do have that ground type weakness, and these Pokemon are going to hit you super hard. Even if Trick Room's up, obviously these are Trick Room monsters. You want to kind of play around and hopefully not have Trick Room up if you're planning on running Okidogi into these, because they are going to outspeed you and hit you very, very hard. Whether you terrestrialize or if you don't, they're still going to hit you like a truck. You have to be very cautious because they do have the ground typing into you, as well as just being able to hit incredibly hard without that ground typing. So I think Blood Moon Ursaluna as well as normal Ursaluna are very solid. Obviously, you do have the Drain Punch to deal with these particular Pokemon, but again, you have to be cautious, especially because you are seeing a fair bit of Fairy Tera on this with an Assault Vest. So if it terrestrializes Fairy into you, you're not going to hit this very hard at all. So you have to be cautious about this particular Pokemon as well. So as far as the Loyal 3 go, Okidogi, in my opinion, again, is the most solid of them. I mean, if we pull up Pheasantipity and we pull up Munkidori, like Pheasantipity has some use cases as like a Tailwind setter with spread moves for Toxic Chain. However, that really sets it in the realm of like being a special attacker, and that's just kind of mid for this Pokemon because it is a physical attacker. It's like they made this Pokemon and didn't know what to do with it, which puts you in a very awkward position. Munkidori, again, it's fast, it's got really good special attack, and I think it's like got some use cases. I'm gonna make another video talking about this particular Pokemon. However, just the fact that it is so frail and it doesn't get access to like many, if any, spread moves, like it didn't get Expanding Force. Like if this had Expanding Force, this would be by far and away the best of them. If this got Expanding Force, it'd be ridiculous. So I mean, it gets Fake Out, it gets Parting Shot. It can be incredibly annoying with its Toxic Chain ability for these reasons. But it's just like overall kind of a mid Pokemon right now, and I'm keen to try it still. I'm gonna play with it on the channel, but it's just kind of like it's there. It's not particularly good, it's not particularly bad. It's just like I feel like these 3 Pokemon in general are relatively mid. So which I'm not mad about, honestly. I'm glad we don't have just a bunch of oppressive Pokemon, especially considering we technically got 4 pretty strong oppressive Pokemon in the form of Ogerpon with its different masks. So I definitely am not mad that these Pokemon aren't like crazy strong, especially like legendaries in general, as far as Scarlet and Violet have gone, have been very powerful. Looking at like the Ruinous Quartet, or even like once we get Koraidon and Miraidon, those are going to be very, very popular because they set the sun, they do crazy damage. Like they are very strong. Looking at like Walking Wake, this is going to be a fantastic Pokemon once we can finally play with it. So there's a lot of Pokemon legendary wise that have been added that are incredibly powerful in this game, and so having 3 legendaries that are just kind of like middle of the road is not something that's incredibly disappointing to me. I think it's kind of nice to see them not like crazy spike a bunch of Pokemon into you know, just like super popularity for competitive play. So for me, Okidogi solid. I'm gonna definitely play with it some more and hopefully have a team more centered on it. It was on my Blood Moon team, but it's not a Pokemon I bring to every battle on that team. I'm really keen to build a team around it and really focus up on just using Okidogi and showing what Okidogi can do. I think Moxie Boost just made a video featuring Okidogi. So there is some people out there playing it and having a good time. I think Pokesports also has one. But again, that is it for Okidogi. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video at any point, leave a like and sub for more videos like this in the future. Also be sure to check out the Discord. People over there hanging out playing Pokemon all the time. And if you want to see anything from me, check out any of the videos that you see here on screen. But until next time, peace.